Well, it's subject to finance, and that's a very big thing, Jonathan. I totally agree with you. There is a problem getting finance out there. Subject to credit becoming more available and easing as time goes on. You talk about the last 20 years and the prices. Go back further than that. Go back to the Second World War and look what's happened to prices since then. There has never been anything wrong with having your money invested in property.
Melanie Bean can talk to us about finance. Melanie,
hello.
You have to fight to get in here. I'm having to fight to get in on my own show this morning. For goodness sake, talk to us about finance. Are the banks ready to lend to us again?
Well, it has been very difficult since the credit crunch hit. We know that there's been a reluctance on the part of lenders to do much lending, and they've really been favouring those with big deposits and very clean credit histories.
This would be the lenders who took our money and now won't lend us our money back.
Yes, there's an element of that. But, in the last few months, it has been easing slightly. We've seen more loans available to those with smaller deposits, so those with 10% to put down, not a ridiculous amount any smaller than that. And more, a little bit more innovation in the market, a bit more, flexibility from lenders. But we have problems ahead of us. We have this special liquidity scheme, this money that's been available to lenders. Now, that needs to be paid back, will start being paid back from April of next year. And talking to some lenders, they're already looking at that and thinking they need to keep some money back. They need to start thinking about how they're going to repay this money. And that's going to mean there's less money available to borrow. So, in fact, this could be the optimum time to get a mortgage. It could get more difficult going forward.
How on earth, Melanie, could banks and building societies, institutions across the country justify lending less in the future? Particularly the banks that have taken public money in order to survive. They couldn't get away with that.
It's about money being available, and they're under huge pressure to be more responsible in their lending. We're going back to a few years ago where you didn't need to put down a deposit at all to get a mortgage. In fact, you could borrow 125%. That sort of, reckless lending in many cases, that's all. We've gone almost now too much the other way. There's more caution than perhaps is required, and that is having an effect on people's ability to get a mortgage.
Listen, there are people calling from all over the country: Winchester, Bristol, Wiltshire, Wolverhampton. We'll hear about some of these house price falls, how much you're having to drop your prices by. 0500 909 693. If you are a buyer and you're getting in there, what kind of bargain can you get? How hard are you trying to drive the bargain with these vulnerable, as someone put it, house sellers and indeed the property developers? Who do you blame for all of this? And these property developers that have been getting in there and are in big trouble now. Any sympathy there? Loads to talk about this morning. The first house price fall last month for a year. We'll get your views in just a second. First, here's Nick with the latest on the roads.
Thank you, Stephen. The southbound M42 has been closed for over 5 hours.
Loads of you across the country calling us, as I say, 0500 909 693. Let me give you a sense of some of the texts coming in this morning. JC says, Stephen, I've been looking for a house in Swansea, and several houses I've viewed have wanted 150 grand more than they were bought for at the height of the bubble in 2007. That's 60% more than they paid 3 years ago. Asking prices in my part of the UK are just ludicrous, says JC. If it'll be great, says Jim in Manchester, if the house prices crash, if we can sell cheaply, we can buy cheaply, so we owe the banks less, and the banks are the only beneficiaries of high prices. Once upon a time, since, says this guy from Edinburgh, a graduate engineer such as myself could get a decent home for 3.5 times your income. But I'll soon be leaving this country for another where quality of life is better and homes are more affordable. The simple thing is this: house prices are far too expensive, and that is ruining the economy. I say the recovery happens when they fall, not rise. And come on, do you expect them to rise forever? Peter Bolton King, just before we go to our callers this morning, you're the chief exec of the National Association of Estate Agents. This RICS survey that's out today is predicting what, 2 or 3% of a fall in the second half of this year. That's not much. Let me talk about PricewaterhouseCoopers, Peter. A 50% chance that house prices will be lower than 2007 peak levels in a decade's time, in 2020. Do you think that's on the money?
No, as I explained earlier, I think that is far too pessimistic a view. Subject to, and Melanie is right in what she says, subject to finance being available, I just do not believe we'll be sitting here, well, I'll be retired by then hopefully, but I don't think we'll be sitting here at that time saying, well, look, OK, Price Waterhouse were right. There's plenty of indications out there in this country that just won't happen. What will happen this year? Will there be a slight decrease this year? There may well be. I was predicting actually this year would remain level. It went up in the first part of the year. It's coming down in the second part. So we'll probably end the year exactly as we were at the end of last year.
And you think it's a good time to buy?
If you are, look, I think there's one thing that...
I nearly thought that was a stupid question.
No, it's not a stupid question. I'll tell you for why. The one thing that this market, I think, has taught everybody is that you cannot regard your house as just bricks and mortar and a cash-rich cow. And I quite agree with Jonathan on that. It got ridiculous before.
But that was you lot instilled that notion in us. It was estate agents up and down in every part of the country was telling us, buy this house in 6 months' time. I was part of this. I bought and sold property. But estate agents said, buy this house in 6 months' time. It'll be worth 10, 20 grand more.
Jonathan,
the sole positive spin that the estate agent, the mortgage broker, is putting on here is subject to finance being available. There is no finance available. The banks don't have the money. As Melanie BN from Savills Mortgage Broker says, first of all, the special liquidity scheme, the banks are going to have to repay the money. On top of that, they are sitting on probably £100 billion of losses on commercial properties.
Peter, I know you have to go...
when they repossess those properties, you just watch them running back to the government for more money. They will not be lending for years.
Peter, I know you have to go this morning. I'll give you the final word. The rest of our guests are going to stay with us. Go ahead.
Okay.
Final word for you, Peter.
All I was going to say is that you asked a question a moment ago, and it wasn't a stupid question. Is this the right time to buy? There is one thing that this market, I think, it is excellent news, and I agree with Jonathan, it was ridiculous before, is people, I believe, have stopped regarding their property as just purely bricks and mortar and a cash-rich cow. I'm getting people who are talking to me now about a home again, and the answer to your question is if you can find that home that you fall in love with at a price that you can afford and that you are likely to be able to afford if interest rates go up a bit, which they will, Jonathan is right, then I would say grab the opportunity, because people generally are not taking a short-term view. If they believe me that in the medium long term it's going to be okay, then there's no problem. If they believe Jonathan that prices are going to completely crash, then clearly there's an issue there.
Peter, nice to talk to you as always. Thank you very much. Jonathan, Kevin, Melanie going to stay with us for a while longer. 0500 909 693. Loads of you calling us this morning. Lucy in Winchester. Morning, Lucy.
Good morning.
Well, you're about to complete your house purchase in the next
hour or so, yes.
Big question, how much did you pay?
Well, the guide price, it was on for 600, and we went and saw it on the very first day it was on the market.
On for 600?
600,000,
You're worth a couple of quid, Lucy.
No, not at all. And literally, we offered the asking price on the day it went on the market, thinking, well, that'll do it. And they didn't accept our offer and played us off against each other, other buyers over the subsequent days. And in the end, it went to sealed bids by the following Friday. So literally there were two other cash offers on the table. What? People who were like us were renting and had money in the bank.
And what region of the UK?
Sorry, which part?
Yeah.
Winchester.
And do you want to tell us how much you paid or not?
Well, no. Well, I mean, it was a painful amount over what we wanted to pay.
So you've got it now, Lucy. You can tell us. You've got the deal done. How much over 600 grand did you pay?
Yeah, we paid an extra 32,000.
In this market,
which was painful for us because we're on a tight margin. So it was a painful extra amount to find.
And Lucy, how come you must be one of the only people? I'm not trying to depress you, but how come you must be one of the only people in the UK that get caught up in a price bidding war upwards?
Well, you should. If you saw the market in Winchester, you'd understand. I mean, people were queuing up for this house. Obviously, there were two other cash offers on the table, both both from families that were renting. I mean, it's, a house goes on the market and they just, block out days and days of viewings. It's mad down here, and we've been watching this market for 2.5 years since we sold our house in Somerset. Just waiting and waiting and waiting for the moment to pounce, thinking, right, prices are going to come down, and all that's happening is they're going right up again.
And what do you think that house is going to be worth this time next year? If you listen to Jonathan Davis this morning,
I'll be totally honest with you.
He thinks that 630 grand house you just paid for could be worth 400 odd grand next year.
Well,
no, I didn't say that.
Well, how much, Jonathan?
400 grand in 3 years' time.
No, I do understand his point, but not in Winchester is all I'm going to say, because the schools here are fantastic. You don't need to put your kids in private school because the schools are so fantastic.
Can I ask you a question?
It's a beautiful place to live. Yeah, go.
What was the price of that property 15 years ago?
Oh, I don't know.
I will tell you, £150,000.
I know. Wouldn't it be wonderful
seriously, have
to pay
wages
that?
gone up 400% in the last 15 years? Of course the answer is no. What has happened is that credit went through the roof. Now credit has been stopped, and that's the reason why your property, if you sign on the dotted in 1 hour, you will see in 3 years' time, I'll put this as a 99% probability, it'll be £400,000 in 3 years' time.
You can't do this to Lucy. She's moving into the house for goodness sake in an hour's time.
I'm trying to save her a fortune.
Oh, it's very kind of you, but I honestly don't think that's going to happen here. And I promise you, I'm very prudent, because we've been renting for 2.5 years, in which we found it to be a miserable experience, waiting for things to happen.
Then you make sure you send me an email in 3 years as to how much it is, because I'll be putting a note in my diary.
Oh, okay. Well, I think in this occasion you might be wrong, just because
you wouldn't want to bring him round for dinner, Lucy, would you? Listen, you wouldn't want to bring Jonathan round for dinner, would you?
Not at the moment. 6 months ago, yes, but not now.
Listen, good luck with the new house.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you. Bye. We'll take more of your calls after the news and weather. 0500 909 693. Darren, what's it like?
A bit wet out there, actually, Stephen, for many parts of the country.